So, dear participants, I again welcome you to this series of online classes on the paper, the English novel, which is prescribed for second semester of MA in English at Rashtra Sant Tukaroji Maharaj Nagpur University, Nagpur. And the series is being conducted jointly by J.M. Patel College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Bhandara, Vasantrao Naik Government Institute of Arts and Social Sciences, Nagpur, and Rajkumar Keval Ramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya, Jaripatka, Nagpur. Friends, today we would be dealing with the second unit of the paper, of the set paper, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. And our resource person for the session is Dr. Madhavi Moharil. Ma'am has been working with Rajkumar Keval Ramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya since 2006, and she has completed her doctoral research. She has got through NET-SET. She has a few projects sponsored by UGC and ICSSR under her belt, and ma'am has been teaching post-graduation since the day she had joined. So with such a vast experience, we are lucky to have her, and we are sure that the session will prove fruitful for our students. I welcome ma'am on behalf of the organizing colleges and hand over the mic to her for her presentation. So over to you, madam.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to say thanks to the principals of the host institutions, Dr. Urmila Dabir ma'am, Dr. Sadhna Shiledar ma'am, Dr. Vikas Domne sir. And at the same time, I'm thankful to the organizers of this course, Dr. Kapil Singhel sir, Dr. Karthik Panikar sir, for giving me an opportunity to conduct this session. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Please allow me to share the screen. Hope it is visible, sir. Is the screen visible, sir?
Yes, yes. Please continue, Madhavi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A very good morning to dear students. In this session, we will deal with a very interesting novelist of 18th century, Thomas Hardy, and his very celebrated novel, Far from Madding Crowd. Before proceeding towards the prescribed novel, we will have a short look on Hardy as a novelist. Hardy was a very talented, sensitive English novelist and poet. His father was in building trade and possessed musical gifts. His mother was an imaginative woman who impressed Hardy very well. He is considered to be a very prolific, very interesting, very talented English novelist and poet of 18th century. Influence of romantics is clearly visible on the fiction of Hardy. Particularly, it was Wordsworth who influenced Hardy. When we will go through the text of Far from Madding Crowd, we will come to know that some features or some elements are clearly seen in the novel of Thomas Hardy, Far from Madding Crowd, such as love, nature, imagination, simplicity. These are the chief features of romantic literature. At the same time, all these chief features can be seen in the novels of Thomas Hardy. So we can say that he was influenced by Romanticism. He was highly influenced by Wordsworth, the chief poet of Romantic era. Thirdly, he is known for Victorian realism. Thomas Hardy is known for Victorian realism. He lived in a rural area. His childhood passed in a rural area, and that's why he was well acquainted with the problems of the peasants. He was well aware of the problems of the farmers. Rural way of life during Victorian period is clearly visible in the novels of Thomas Hardy. Far from Madding Crowd is not an exception to this. So while going through the plot of the novel, we come to know that the central character of this particular novel, that is Gabriel Oak, he belongs to the peasants community. He belongs to the farming community. And that's why we can say that Thomas Hardy is known for Victorian realism, and he lived in the rural area, and rural way of life during Victorian period is clearly visible in the novels of Thomas Hardy. So he is known for Victorian realism also. Always Thomas Hardy is considered as a pessimistic writer who depicts the side of despair of life, who brings out the darker side of life in the novels. Tess, Return of the Native, Mayor of Casterbridge, Jude the Obscure, these are all supposed to be dark novel. Dark novel means the element of pessimism are prominently presented in all these novels, and that's why these novels bring out the pessimism in life. So he is always considered as a pessimistic writer who depicts the darker side of life, or who depicts the side of despair of life. But one thought also has come up, that Hardy touches the hearts of his readers by using able at once to mourn and rejoice in the given situation of man, because pessimism, problems, complications, sorrow, sadness, these are all the realities of life. And that's why the reality of life has been presented by Thomas Hardy in a very wonderful way in almost all his novels, and Far From Madding Crowd is not the exception to that. While discussing the setting or the novels of Thomas Hardy, almost all the novels of Hardy are set at Wessex. Wessex is an imaginary or the fictional landscape located in the south or the southwest of England. Hardy's novels are called as Wessex novels, and that's why Wessex plays this place play a very important role in the novels of Thomas Hardy. When we think about Wessex, it reminds us R.K. Narayan's Malgudi, the fictional South Indian town. Almost all the characters of R.K. Narayan presented in different stories, presented in his novels, they are placed in the fictional town Malgudi. Malgudi is so realistic, Malgudi is so lifelike that it presents the South Indian town, South Indian village. Whereas Malgudi is typically Indian, Wessex is typically English. Despite this difference, all these manners, even the universal tales of man-nature relation are same in these two relations, these two places. Hardy has very well developed this imaginary place with liveliness. So Wessex plays a very fictional county of England, this fictional place of England, it plays a very important role in novels of Thomas Hardy. It is very lifelike, it is imaginary or fictional landscape located in south and southwest of England. While reading the novels of Thomas Hardy, the readers find that the nature is the conditions of the characters. Please keep your mic mute. Thank you. While reading the novels of Thomas Hardy, the reader finds that the nature is responding to the moods and conditions of the characters. And that's why Thomas Hardy says that Wessex novels are the novels of character and environment. Then we will read the novel of Thomas Hardy's Far From Madding Crowd. And when we will discuss the plot, we will come to know that
I think participants, please keep your mics on, please mute your mics. किसका mic समझ में नहीं आ रहा? Yeah, carry on.
Yes, thank you, sir. So we were discussing the importance of Wessex in the novels of Thomas Hardy. We come to know, or we can feel the presence of Wessex in the novels of Thomas Hardy as the character. While reading the novels of Thomas Hardy, the reader finds that the nature is responding to the moods and the conditions of the characters. And that's why Thomas Hardy himself says that Wessex novels are the novels of character and the environment. This particular quotation is from the given text. that is Far from Madding Crowd, we get the following description where Thomas Hardy writes, every green was young, every pore was open, and every stalk was swollen with racing currents of juice. God was palpably pleasant in the country, and the devil had gone with the world to town. This is a beautiful picture, or this is the picture of Wessex, a beautiful pastoral declaration we can see in Far from Madding Crowd, that is by Thomas Hardy. So this particular condition, or this particular presentation of nature, which has been presented by Thomas Hardy wonderfully in almost all the novels. It may be Mayor of Casterbridge, it may be Far from Madding Crowd, it may be a Tess, isn't it? We see that the character is the part and parcel of that particular, Wessex is the part and parcel of that particular novel. It works, it behaves, it responds to the moods and the conditions of the character. So it plays a very important role in the novels of Thomas Hardy. These are the highlights of the novel, Far from Madding Crowd. It is set in Hardy's Wessex, the rural southwest England. It is called as a pastoral novel because it has pastoral or rural elements in it, and that's why Far from Madding Crowd is called as a pastoral novel. Rural elements are there, rural characters are there, rural situations are there, or rural setting is there, and that's why it is called as the pastoral novel. Hardy himself calls it as a pastoral tale. Even the novel opens with the portrait of a shepherd. Portrait of Gabriel Oak, who is a farmer, who is a peasant, who is a shepherd, isn't it? So it brings out pastoral elements in it, and that's why it is called as a pastoral novel, because rural elements are incorporated, or rural elements are presented, rural characters are presented in the novel. The novel deals with the theme of love, honor, betrayal. Very, very simple kind of a presentation is there, but it brings out these themes in the novel. That is, the theme of love is projected, the theme of honor, theme of betrayal, these themes are presented in this particular novel. The novel depicts seemingly idyllic, but often harsh realities of farming community in Victorian England. It brings out pleasant, peaceful, perfect kind of a condition in the very beginning, but at the end, the harsh reality of nature is presented, which influences the life of the peasants. And that's why in the previous slide we have seen that in the novels of Hardy we can see the Victorian realism, the presentation of Victorian England. The presentation of Victorian England or Victorian reality has been presented through the presentation of this kind of rural elements, or beautiful, perfect, pleasant picture of the nature, at the same time harsh realities of the farming community during the Victorian England. It is dramatized several times. The novel achieved a great popularity and has been dramatized many times. The movie adaptation also had been done by the same name. As in the previous lecture, Ajay Devkate sir, he advised the students to watch the movie Wuthering Heights based on the novel by Emily Bronte. In the same way, I also would like to suggest the students that they have to watch this movie, wonderful movie, Far from Madding Crowd, which is based on the novel by Thomas Hardy, Far from Madding Crowd. These are the significant characters in the novel. The very first character, protagonist of the novel, central character of the novel, is Bathsheba Everdeen. Bathsheba is a very beautiful, bold young woman. She is with great vanity. She is at the center of the novel. In the beginning, she is presented in penniless but gets wealthy through her very great fortune. In the beginning, she is presented as a poor kind of a girl. But later on, she gets the wealth of her uncle, and she's presented as a very fortunate kind of a girl, a very wealthy kind of a girl. She becomes the owner of the farm. She is presented as harsh, but very impulsive, immature, and unpredictable young woman. She is beautiful, no doubt. She is very charming. She is the heroine of this novel. She is the central character of this novel. She is young. She is beautiful. She is charming. But at the same time, she is very harsh. She is presented to be very harsh. She is presented to be very impulsive. She is presented to be very unpredictable kind of a character, immature kind of a character. The one who takes the decisions, major decisions of life with just a great impulse, isn't it? While describing this character, Hardy says is she is a child of impulse. She is a child of impulse, very unpredictable kind of a character, the one who takes the decision with immature attitude. She is said to be made up of very varying particulars. This is the central character of this particular novel, Far from Madding Crowd. Very important character, Bathsheba. Young, bold, but unpredictable young woman she is. Second important character, Gabriel Oak. He is also the important character in the novel. We can say he is the hero of the novel. Gabriel is a farmer. He represents the community of the peasants. He represents the community of the farmers. He is a farmer, he's a peasant, shepherd, and bailiff also. Bailiff means he is the officer whose job is to take possession of the property of the people who do not pay the debts. And that's why he, at the end of the novel, he is presented to be the bailiff also. He is presented to be very honest, humble, and matured guy, exactly opposite to Bathsheba. Bathsheba is immature, very unpredictable, but Gabriel Oak is very matured, very humble, very honest kind of a farmer, very honest kind of, a very humble kind of, very matured kind of a peasant he is. He possesses exceptional skills of farming and takes care of the animals. He represents the Victorian peasant community. And that's why he is a very important character in the play. In the beginning, he is the first suitor of Bathsheba and then works as a bailiff in his farm. At the end, he marries her. This is the important couple in this particular novel. He is special because he is an he possesses an incredible ability to read the natural world and control it without fighting against it. He doesn't know there is no element of quarrel in his personality. He's very calm, very matured kind of a guy he is. He is said to be the guardian angel of Bathsheba. While going through the plot, we come to know that right from the beginning of the novel up to the end, he supports Bathsheba in each and every situation. So he is said to be the guardian angel of Bathsheba. Most of the time, he remains a silent observer to Bathsheba's decision. Bathsheba takes many major decisions in her life which affect Gabriel Oak, but he remains silent, he remains observer to the decisions taken by Bathsheba. Third important character is Boldwood, William Boldwood, very rich man, owner of the farm. He is a handsome man, he is a rich man, a middle-aged man, he is the owner of a farm. He is handsome but somewhat reserved kind of a character or wooden in nature, just suitable to his name. He is the second suitor of Bathsheba. After going to Weatherbury, he meets William Boldwood and just on whim he proposes her or sends him the message, marry me. And he proves to be the second suitor of Bathsheba. Bathsheba leaves him. After some time, Bathsheba realizes that this is not the person she wants to be the life partner, and she leaves him. But he develops feelings for her, and at the end, he seems to be more pathetic and pardonable character than the tragic one. So, William Boldwood also plays a very important role in the novel. He is the second suitor of Bathsheba. The third character is Sergeant Francis Troy. He is called as Frank. Frank is exactly opposite to Gabriel Oak. He is presented to be antagonist. Antagonist means a character of hostility, a negative character. He is handsome, he is young, but very irresponsible and proudy kind of a young man. Firstly, he is involved in Fanny Robin, a poor girl, an orphan of the village, and gets her pregnant. He plans to marry her, but due to some miscommunication regarding the place of marriage, regarding church, he refuses to marry her. He leaves her and marries rich and beautiful Bathsheba. So he becomes the third suitor of Bathsheba. At last, when Fanny dies, during the time of pregnancy, while giving birth to the child, Fanny dies. He realizes his mistakes. He realizes his mistakes. He realizes that the wrong has been done by him to Fanny. He realizes this particular thing and he repents and he feels very sad. At the end of the novel, we find that he is shot dead by William Boldwood. Another important character in the novel is Fanny Robin. Fanny Robin is a young orphan servant girl. She loves Frank very well. She gets pregnant by Frank, but Frank does not accept her. Frank does not marry her, and she dies while giving birth to child. So she is a very pathetic, very poor kind of a girl. She is very pathetic kind of a character. She is presented by Thomas Hardy. She represents those women who are not protected by the society or who are not protected by the families. So these are the important characters in the novel. First of all, Bathsheba Everdeen, a very bold, beautiful, charming young lady, but the lady with vanity. Second important character, Gabriel Oak. Gabriel Oak is very matured, very responsible kind of a personality, young man. He is the peasant, he is the farmer, and that's why he represents the farming community of Victorian era. Third character is William Boldwood. William Boldwood is a middle-aged, handsome, rich young man, owner of a farm. He's a second suitor of Bathsheba. Third character is Francis Troy, Sergeant Francis Troy, who is called as Frank. Frank is very irresponsible kind of a character, the one who is not so serious regarding life, the one who deceives women like that. That kind of irresponsible or immature character is presented in the form of Francis Troy. And another character is Fanny Robin. Fanny Robin is a poor girl. She's an orphan girl. She works as a servant. The advantage of her poverty was taken by Francis Troy. He deceives her. Now, while going through the plot of this particular novel, in the beginning, Gabriel Oak is presented. Gabriel is presented as a peasant working in his farm, sincere kind of a fellow, honest kind of a fellow. One day, he sleeps in his shepherd's hut with windows closed, but the hearth still lit. So due to suffocation, he is about to die, but at that time, Bathsheba comes there. She comes in and saves the life of Gabriel Oak. Now, after she saves the life of Gabriel Oak, they have a very good tuning with each other. He is highly impressed by Bathsheba's vanity, Bathsheba's personality. He is spellbound with her charm, and that's why Gabriel asks to marry him. Gabriel asks to marry her. But Bathsheba thinks that Gabriel is not a suitable match to her. And that's why she refuses, as she does not love him. But Gabriel declares that he will always love her, and he remains sincere to his resolution, to his decision, that I will always be with Bathsheba, Everdeen. And he already has developed a soft corner for Bathsheba, and he remains loyal to her. But in the beginning, Bathsheba refuses to marry him. No long after the proposal, Gabriel comes to know that Bathsheba inherits her uncle's prosperous farm, and she decides to shift to Weatherbury, because now she will be the owner of the farm. She will be the owner of her uncle's farm, and she decides to live in Weatherbury. She shifts over there. She inherits her uncle's prosperous farm and she shifts there. She moves away to the town of Weatherbury. Then she moves away to the town Weatherbury. The life of Gabriel changes. Tragic events occur, bringing Gabriel's misfortune. It changes Gabriel's fate forever. So many problems are faced by Gabriel, and his life changes. The problems or the calamities in life make him to shift from his village to Weatherbury also, and that's why he shifts to Weatherbury. What are the problems he faces at that particular time? Disaster falls on his farm and ship. His ship dies. He gets ruined without ship and farm. He fails to find out way to survive, and he gives up farming. In this condition also, he thanks God that he did not marry Bathsheba, and because as he is passing through the life of misfortune, Bathsheba also would be the part of that misfortune if she had consented him. And that's why he thanks God that Bathsheba refused my proposal and she shifted to Weatherbury. And he lives in a very miserable condition of life. He lives in a very difficult condition of life. He wishes for her prosperity, even that dire negative condition of life. He tries to get the job in his village, but it proves in vain. And that's why he travels to Weatherbury. One day, While living in Weatherbury, he rescues a local farm from fire, and he gets admiration from the people of that particular neighborhood. He rescues the local farm from fire, and he gets admiration. He meets the mistress over there and asks the mistress if she needs some shepherd. The mistress says that yes, we are in need of some people, and she hires him. Fortunately, it is Bathsheba. Again, he meets Bathsheba. That mistress is Bathsheba. He meets her again in life, and she gives consent to hire him. She hires him. In this way, Gabriel again meets Bathsheba at Weatherbury. Now, with the entry of Boldwood, a new chapter begins in the life of Bathsheba. Bathsheba lives in Weatherbury very comfortably, and she meets Boldwood. Bathsheba becomes acquainted with Boldwood. Boldwood is a rich man, a handsome man. Still, he is a bachelor. As it has been described in the earlier slide, in the slide of character, Bathsheba is a very immature kind of a girl, very unpredictable kind of a girl. She sees that he is a rich man, he is a very handsome man, he is the owner of the farm, and that's why she gets very much impressed by the personality of Boldwood. And on whim, she sends him a valentine with the words, "Marry me." At that time, she was not so serious about it, but she sends that valentine to Boldwood, "Marry me." The letter has profound effect on Boldwood, and rich and handsome Boldwood gets obsessed with Bathsheba. He accepts the proposal of Bathsheba, and he shows his readiness to marry Bathsheba. In fact, Gabriel dislikes this particular decision, this particular move of Bathsheba, and he wants Bathsheba not to do it. But Bathsheba is not in that condition to listen to the advice given by Gabriel, and she decides to marry Boldwood. Boldwood becomes the second suitor of Bathsheba. But in reality, when after marriage she comes to know that Boldwood is not a very reliable personality, he is sought after many women. And again, she realizes that he is not the person in dream. He is not the person she wants to live with. And that's why she refuses him. She decides to part from Boldwood. Bathsheba realizes that this is not the person of her heart, and she refuses him and realizes that she does not love him. He leaves Boldwood also. With the entry of Sergeant Troy, a soldier, it proves again a turning point in the life of Bathsheba. This is the third person in the life of Bathsheba. She meets Sergeant Troy. Bathsheba meets handsome soldier Sergeant Troy. Sergeant Troy is very handsome, very dashing kind of a young man, and Bathsheba likes him. She meets him, this handsome soldier Sergeant Troy. Troy falls in love with Bathsheba. He praises her. He offers her so many gifts. She is beautiful, she is bold, she is charming, she is the owner of the farm, and that's why all these qualities were there in Bathsheba. Troy likes her, and he falls in love with Bathsheba. Now, Gabriel remains a friend throughout this journey of Bathsheba. Again, he informs Bathsheba that you should not take this decision. You are committing mistake. You should not go with Troy. Again, you are committing mistake. But Bathsheba again is not ready to listen to the advice given by Gabriel. Oh, and she decides to marry Sergeant Troy. Gabriel dislikes and disapproves Bathsheba's decision and marriage with Troy, because Gabriel knows it very well that Troy is not so serious, so responsible kind of a fellow. He deceives women. It was known to Gabriel Oak, and that's why again and again he wants Bathsheba not to decide to live life with Sergeant Troy. But Bathsheba is not in the condition to again listen the advice given by Gabriel Oak. Eventually, Troy marries Bathsheba, and a particular turning point comes in the life of Bathsheba. This is an important turning in the life of Bathsheba when she comes to know about the relationship between Troy and Fanny Robin. In the character slide, we have seen that Fanny Robin is a poor girl. She is an orphan girl. She is a servant. And that's why she is not supported by the society and she is not supported by the family. She was an orphan girl. And that's why there was no one to support her, to take her side. Troy loves her. She gets pregnant from Troy. But after that, Troy is not ready to take the responsibility of Fanny Robin, and he leaves her, isn't it? Fanny is a poor and servant girl. She's an orphan. Troy refuses to marry her. So she feels completely ruined. Before meeting Bathsheba, Troy impregnated a local girl, Fanny Robin. A few weeks after his marriage with Bathsheba, he sees the poor and sick girl, Fanny. She later dies giving birth to a child. Fanny dies while giving birth to a child. Bathsheba discovers that Troy is the father of Fanny's child. Grief-stricken Troy, after that, Troy also comes to know that this was the girl he did not want to marry. Or he refused to marry. And now the girl was giving birth to the child, and that child belongs to him. At that time, he also feels, for a time being, he feels grief-stricken because he feels repentant and he doesn't come back for a long time. And so he thought to be drawn. So this is the chapter in the life of Troy, in the life of Bathsheba, when Bathsheba comes to know that Troy already was involved with Fanny Robin, and Fanny Robin was a poor girl. He is the father of the child of Fanny Robin. Now, this is the climax of the story. After some time, Bathsheba, first of all, leaves Gabriel Oak. Gabriel Oak, his farm completely gets ruined, and that's why he shifts to Weatherbury. When he comes to Weatherbury, he was hired by Bathsheba. At that time, Bathsheba is involved with William Boldwood. She marries him, but after some time, she realizes that this is not the person she loves, and that's why she leaves this person. She decides to marry Sergeant Troy. Sergeant Troy is very irresponsible kind of a person, and that's why she realizes that already he was involved in Fanny, and he is the father of her child. Again, she is not happy. Bathsheba is not happy with Sergeant Troy. She decides to leave Troy. Now, again, there is a problem in the life of Bathsheba. At this particular time, William Boldwood comes again to Bathsheba because of his obsession, because of his demonic and artificial passion for Bathsheba. He comes again to the life of Bathsheba. After some time, Troy also comes back to Bathsheba because he thinks that he cannot love without her. And that's why Bathsheba also, in the company of Bathsheba, Boldwood also is there, and Frank also is there. Boldwood feels very emphatic about Bathsheba. Troy also arrives to claim her. In the episode To Win Bathsheba, both of these people they try, that is William Boldwood and Frank, both are in an attempt to catch Bathsheba or to live with Bathsheba, to win the heart of Bathsheba again. In the episode To Win Bathsheba, there occurs a fight between Boldwood and Troy. Troy wants to live with Bathsheba, and Boldwood also wants to win the heart of Bathsheba. There is a particular fight between both of them. Bathsheba screams, and Boldwood shoots Troy dead. At that time, Troy dies. As a result, Boldwood is sentenced to life in prison, and he remains in exile for the remaining period of his life. These experiences change Bathsheba completely. Troy's tragic desertion of Fanny, the reality of the life of Fanny, along with her dead child, and her consequent death brings Bathsheba to contemplate over the meaning of life. She thinks about the past moments, and she thinks about the reality of life. It drives her into deepest sources of her personality. She thinks about her own personality. She thinks about Gabriel. She thinks about her life, and she thinks about all the episodes in her life, all the moments, past moments in her life. She contemplates over that. Now, Gabriel is the silent observer of all these changes, all these decisions taken by Bathsheba. all these changes in her personality, all these changes in her life. Actually, he is considered to be the guardian angel of Bathsheba. He suffers without bitterness or complaints or any reproach. Whatever the decisions, actually, he loves Bathsheba very much. But whatever the decisions taken by Bathsheba regarding her life, he supports her in each and every condition. He does not leave her. And that's why we can see here a wonderful bonding between Bathsheba and Gabriel Oak. At the end, Boldwood is sentenced to life in prison. Eventually, Gabriel proposes Bathsheba, and Bathsheba gives her consent to marry Gabriel Oak. Bathsheba marries Gabriel Oak and now lives a very prosperous, a very happy life with Gabriel Oak. And here the novel comes to an end. These are some important things which you have to keep in your mind regarding the novel. To conclude, we can see that the characters, we can say that Far From Madding Crowd is just the celebration of rural life. We have seen that the setting, the characters are placed in Wessex, the rural area, which has been presented, the life of the peasants, the life of the farmers, the celebration of the rural life is presented wonderfully by Thomas Hardy in Far From the Madding Crowd. Secondly, we can see that the characters are bounded with their basic tendencies, identities, behavioral patterns, strengths, and weaknesses. We have seen major characters. Bathsheba is there, very mature kind of a lady, bold, beautiful, but immature kind of a lady, or unpredictable kind of a lady, the one who is said to be the child of impulse. Without thinking the results of the situation, without thinking taking the responsibility of any kind of decision, she takes the decision without taking into consideration the results of that. That kind of immature girl she is. That is Bathsheba. Another important character is there, Gabriel Oak, very honest, very sincere kind of a guy, the one who represents the rural community of Victorian England. Thirdly, Boldwood is there, rich, handsome kind of a personality, but the one who is not so serious regarding women. Obsessive kind of a personality he has been presented. Fanny Robin is there, a poor orphan girl, the one who does not have a particular stand in her life. She cannot fight for a right. That kind of character also is there in the novel. Sergeant Troy is there, the one who is not so serious about life, the one who is very, immature or irresponsible kind of a young man is presented. So different kinds of characters are presented by Thomas Hardy in Far From Madding Crowd. There are basic tendencies, identities, behavioral patterns, strengths, and weaknesses of all these characters. But these characters are lifelike. They are very, lively kind of characters are presented, and the situations are wonderfully presented by Thomas Hardy. So art of characterization is very important as far as the novels of Thomas Hardy are concerned. Bathsheba is presented. She is considered to be a child of impulse, She takes the decision, but she doesn't think about the results of all those decisions. She suffers a lot, but she learns the uses of adversity also. So this kind of the shift we can see in the character of Bathsheba. In the very beginning, she is presented to be very impulsive kind of a character, but at the end of the character, we can see a very matured kind of a girl, the one who can think about the meaning of life. She comes to the conclusion that it is only Gabriel Oak who can support her, and she can live with this particular person, very honest, very simple guy forever. This kind of contemplation regarding life she is able to do at the end of the novel. Shades of male characters are there. We can see obsessive Boldwood. We can see irresponsible Troy. We can see compassionate and honest Gabriel Oak. These shades of male character are presented by Thomas Hardy in this particular novel. Bathsheba leaves Gabriel but does not forget him. In the tough time, she says to him that, "Do not desert me, Gabriel. I need you. I need your support. I need your presence in my life." She learns to trust Gabriel's opinion of herself more than her own. It is the strong bonding between them. It comes to the conventional happy ending. So it can be called as a tragi-comic novel, which comes to an end with the conventional happy ending. So these are all the important points of this particular novel. These are the sample questions which can be asked in your examination, where you can be asked, You can be asked to describe Hardy's tragic vision of life depicted in Far from Madding Crowd. You will have to explain the role of fate in Far from Madding Crowd, or what is the impression you get from the character of Bathsheba in Hardy's Far from Madding Crowd. You will have to describe the strengths and weaknesses in the character of Bathsheba here. Elucidate Thomas Hardy's Far from Madding Crowd as a Wessex novel. We have discussed the importance of Wessex or the imaginary landscape which has been presented by Thomas Hardy in almost all his novels. It may be Tess, it may be Mayor of the Casterbridge, it may be Far from Madding Crowd, or it may be Jude the Obscure, it may be Tess. It may be any other novel where Wessex plays a very important or a very significant role. It works like a character, which changes according to the moods and situations of the character. And that's why you will have to elucidate Thomas Hardy's Far from Madding Crowd as a Wessex novel. How does Hardy's Far from Madding Crowd describe women in man's world? Here you will have to discuss two characters. First of all, Bathsheba, and the other is Fanny Brown. Different kinds of characters you will have to describe here in response to this particular question. Along with the prescribed text in background topics, you will have to prepare these novelists, these significant characters in the Victorian age. First of all, George Meredith. As Thomas Hardy, George Meredith also was an English novelist of Victorian era. He was influenced by John Keats. Novels like The Egoist, Dinah of Crossways were innovatives in their attention to character. Wonderful character presentation is there in these novels. It brings out the character psychology and an attempt to social change. This person, that is George Meredith, was nominated for Nobel Prize in Literature for 7 times. Henry James also is important name in the field of novels, in the field of English novels. Henry James was an American-British author. He is chiefly known for the novel, The Portrait of a Lady, which depicts the story of a young American woman, Isabel Archer. Many novels, stories are published by Henry Jones. John Watson is there. He was an American psychiatrist who popularized the scientific theory of behaviorism. Through his behavioral approach, he conducted research on animal behavior, child rearing, and so on. George Gissing was there, an English novelist who published 23 novels, among Netherworld, New Grub Street, and The Old Women are the best known. John Galt is there. He was a Scottish novelist and entrepreneur. He has been called as the first political novelist to deal with the issues of industrial revolution. Thank you so much. All the best to all of you for the preparation of the examination. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So, ma'am dealt with the novel, considering all the important points. It has a role of fate, as we know, it's one of the important characteristics of all the novels of Thomas Hardy. Along with that, it's a regional novel. When it comes to the preparation of examination, and on behalf of the organizing colleges and the participating students, I thank ma'am for her wonderful lecture, and how she could manage all the important points and topics of the novel in this a few slides that she has presented. So thank you, ma'am, Moharil ma'am, once again. And I declare that the session for the day is over. And tomorrow we will be meeting again at 10 o'clock with another presentation. So bye everyone, and have a nice day.